front and just the arm heads. So I left off last time with some success on the CMYK prints. All 4 colors ended up working out pretty good. Was able to make sure the paint wasn't drying in the screens anymore. And this time around, I've really never tried to screen print on the sleeve of a garment. So I first need to build a pallet that can receive the sleeves, because right now this is just set up for a t-shirt. Let's check out a few of the supplies I got to make that happen. So firstly, I got this sheet of melamine. This is probably more for like cabinets or shelving, but it's pretty close to the stuff they use for pallets. So it's got a nice smooth surface, and I'll be able to cut this down. Also picked up some smaller squeegees, just because having the big 12-inch one across the whole width would potentially be a little troublesome. And then a new bracket as well for mounting it to the center arm of the press. So I'm going to try and use the same screens and image on the sleeves. I think they'll look pretty sweet with kind of the silhouette of the face edge there, and honestly the sizing of it should be able to get like half on the sleeve. Definitely going to be a little unique on how I get the edge of that to feather or kind of diffuse a little bit, but something to solve in a little while. It'd be nice to sample set up where these things all land on the pallet, so then I can cut that pallet really particular to this exact screen location. I had a teacher back in the day that was adamant about prototyping with cardboard, saying that you could really problem solve through most of your challenges just with a cardboard prototype rather than getting into the wood just right off the bat. I think to maximize how much of the image I can use, I'm going to just try to have the smallest seam down the middle, and that means I'll be able to slide each sleeve over 1/2 of the pallet. That'll get a little bit tricky with, I think, how I mount the bracket on the back. See if it's firm enough to be able to still pull the sleeve over without interfering with the pallet arm. I go as far as sample drilled the bracket to the cardboard. And just use my finger. I've honestly never used screws with prototyping cardboard. Normally I'm just getting after it with a bunch of tape. Honestly, it's a pretty fast way to fasten things and sample it out, so I think I might employ this in the future too. It honestly doesn't look like too much, but that makes for a pretty optimized design, right? Let's take the other pallet off and see if we can screw this in. Something I didn't quite consider from the start is no matter what, we're going to have that beam kind of running through the center. So hopefully there's clearance to get the sleeves around this piece without then interfering with the beam that's going to be right below it. Okay, so even as is, there's a little clearance between the two, so maybe we'll be all right. Yeah, as the image lands, that's barely even making it to the cuff of the sleeve, so I'm gonna have to move things down quite a bit. I need this. I need to be printing well down into here. If you're wondering, that is dried blood on there. I cut myself in the store when picking these out. Now I'm thinking I need to round these corners to make sure t-shirts don't snag on them either. Got this 1/4-inch board here that I'm going to use as a little spacer down the run where the 2 sleeves will pass by each other. Alright, we're looking pretty official here. There's definitely some play in these, so we'll see if stability is a little bit of an issue here. Seam goes right down the middle. That's promising. So in the second print session, I tried a black garment and didn't have really any good results. The inks don't have really much opacity to them. That allows them to blend better on like light garments, but means you're pretty restricted for stuff that has pigment in the actual fabric. So I'm thinking we do a little bleach dye and remove some of that dye that's behind the design and see if we can have kind of like a reveal of the image. So I can barely even see this in person, let alone through the camera, so hopefully the bleach does a nice little reveal for us. Yeah, it'll probably end up having like a red or like yellow hue to it. Normally when you bleach out, it doesn't totally go to white on a black t-shirt. It sometimes has like a kind of red pigment to it. The image isn't quite coming through, but I'm gonna let it sit for maybe 20 minutes or so and see if it gets any better. Well, we had some interesting results with the bleach. It certainly washed out the pigment plenty, but I don't know, the color complexion of the kind of burnt orange to the edge of the black definitely isn't selling it exactly for me. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that with the kind of black shirt on the very edges of it, it distracts your eye a little bit from the darker kind of sections of the piece. Worthy experiment, but I think it might be better to work with some other colors on the darker garments. This hoodie's actually I printed with silver. I don't have any silver on me, but I think a gray kind of white combo with some blacks in it could give a cool stack up of kind of the halftones on each of these screens. So we'll see what looks best on darker garments, but not so sure the bleach is the route to go. In the meantime, I also actually was working on some of the silhouettes that I wanted to use for masking off my design. Don't want to have like a super harsh square edge to the one side of the design that's kind of going down through the center of the face. So instead I'm opting to do kind of a wavy pattern. So that's the profile there, and then I'm thinking I'll just cut it out with the laser cutter and get a nice little edge on some paper, and we can kind of just tack it down on top of the shirt. We'll see how well that works and how durable it is against all the inks. Alright, so a few thoughts about the first print here. Definitely got to be careful about doing the multiple passes. Definitely got way darker than the sample over there. I might give it a try without the stencil altogether as well and see if it has a natural feather to it. Got to clean up the palette a little bit anyways. So while I was actually cleaning up my sleeve palette, I broke the wood adapter that I had made. Just kind of split it right down the middle. And that was a feature of when the larger screws engaged, it actually pushed this up and put a lot of strain on it. So it kind of just split alongside some of the bolt holes there. So I took the time to remake it in something a little bit more sturdy. So we got a piece of aluminum here. It's a little bit thicker, so hopefully it doesn't mess with the off contact too much, but should be a little more robust than the little pine wood there. So I do have this stuff that's called pallet tape. Basically, you stick it down to the pallet beforehand and it keeps your palette a little extra clean. That way all like the adhesives and the spray tack and stuff only get applied to the kind of paper that you can then pull off. But it has some slight tack to the back side of it. So I'm thinking that that'll be a better means of cutting and using an image, and I've got plenty of this so I can just make a bunch of them and kind of use them as I go. And I also had a slightly different idea for the center of the shirt. I want to cut a more involved silhouette and use that to mask off some of the area, because I don't want to have to print over top of like the seam of the pocket. So that'll keep like the image a little bit more located to the center of the chest. And I think this stuff will be really good for that too. So let's start with like the squiggle, and then we can go with the more extreme stuff. Hopefully the wood doesn't take away too much of that tack when we have to do the laser on it. I'm thinking maybe I can use like the left of the squiggle on the left arm and the right of the squiggle on the right arm, so they kind of like mesh up together. Cool. Yeah, that was deep enough to cut through both sides. I'm gonna do one last test setup with the sheet, make sure my new variable of the transfer tape isn't kind of messing with stuff too much, and hopefully we can do a real shirt. So I did a few test prints, and I don't know that the warp is coming out as I expected. So it cuts into the design quite a bit there as it waves. So you're losing an extra like ½ inch, not to mention the squeegee's only like 4 inches wide. So all of a sudden you're losing some of the eyeball and whatnot. So honestly, I think I'm gonna go with that. Either a straight pass or such a modest little squiggle that it doesn't dig into the design as much. But it's printing clean, so I feel like it's time to go for a real shirt. Honestly, that looks pretty good. It's interesting. I like how it looks. It's definitely low by like a big extent. Damn it, red double blue. Yeah. That's gonna look sick. Much better on the placement. Wanted it up here, not down at my wrist. Sweet. Now I just got to figure out the chest hit. So I had some good successes on those shirts. I'm going to give it a try on this work shirt. I got a little bit different of a setup here though, because the seam is both present on the exterior as well as the interior, whereas the hoodie and stuff is just on the interior. So I might have to do kind of this front facing edge instead. It's interesting, the texture of the hoodie is shown through just almost as much as the canvas jacket. It kind of almost makes it look knit. I don't know, I kind of like the clean front and just the arm heads. Maybe we'll leave one just like this. I don't think I want to mess with it, so we're gonna leave this hoodie just super clean, and then maybe we'll tweak some of the t-shirt designs and see what else we can experiment with. Alright, this next one, I want to see if I'll have the chance to do kind of like a little storytelling with the CMYK setup. So I want to see if I can print like a little circle with just the cyan, a little circle with just the magenta, yellow, and black, and that way you can kind of see like how each layer gets stacked up. So here on the middle circle, I'll then pass all 3 colors together so that you get the blend of all of them, and hopefully that'll tell the story of CMYK a little bit on the actual t-shirt. I want that circle also to land like perfectly on the eyeball, so we'll see if I can get that lined up without too much trouble here. So I did it in order as it kind of reads, so C for cyan, M for magenta, then yellow, and black. So the middle I kept as all 4 colors, just because that means I can put the eyeball down there. I figured down at the bottom you wouldn't look so good with just all the colors in kind of the chin area. Let's pull this off. I don't know. I'm optimistic that it looks pretty good. And I was also thinking I could do this down the sleeve as well. I was thinking doing like face on one side, 5 up circles on the sleeve. You know, I love this pattern and all, but I feel like the story of this t-shirt's a little bit more than that. You know, it's all about that CMYK process and how really it's just 4 colors that build all this up. So I photoshopped a bunch of these options and thought I had like narrowed it down to what I liked, but still feels like now that I've got it all on the actual t-shirt, I've got a ton of things to choose from. Alright, so this has got me thinking that a pocket hit on one of the canvas jackets might look sweet. So I'm gonna set that up now, just trying to focus on the eyeball region, and hopefully that looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna do the whole pocket area rather than the circle, because it's already raised a little bit, so I can just mask around that, and that should be able to be a pretty even. So I haven't had great successes with the black print. I tried bleaching out to see if that would look cool, and I don't think that's going anywhere. So I'm thinking maybe instead of the color version, I might try to do like a grayscale version on the black. So gonna mix up some grays here and see what goes of it. Right now this is like a 25% gray. So I've got 200 grams of white and 50 grams of black. So I was using the yellow layer as kind of like an underbase, and it left a pretty prominent actual image, not nearly the grayscale I was looking for. It's a little overpowering, I feel like. Maybe I'll try with just the 3 layers of gray and see how that works. Much better. Alright, let's see if the next couple layers help or hurt that aesthetic. Okay, definitely cut it back a little bit. I worry it'll look a little bit negative, but I don't think that'll be the end of the world with this design. It's definitely nice and subtle. I like that. I gotta think if there's anything I want to tweak on it. I think it's time we try and do the mask off on the front of the shirt. Pretty subtle on the front. Bigger image on the back looks a little bit more prominent, but I don't know if a front and back print and sleeve hit is like gonna look good. I think something small on the front, because you get this on the back. You're gonna get it on either sleeve. I wonder if I just did like silhouette of an S. I guess I'll give it a try. So the original placement of the design didn't have much halftoning where the S was, so I moved it, tried again, and got a little bit more, but still that wasn't a whole lot, so I added a white layer. Check out how like cool the splatter turned out. Little S off my chest doesn't totally sell it for me. So I also went ahead and tried kind of like a box logo style. I think it'll keep a nice clean front and then let the back be kind of the centerfold. Pack all this in and take my learnings into tomorrow.